to another podcast.
Yes, today's a special one for me because I've spent, well, they're all special. They really are. They all touch a piece of my heart somewhere.
Aw.
But this one is about procrastinating. It's about some of the reasons why we do, at least the reasons why I have my theories on it. I know you have plenty of your own,
Mm.
just as valid and as powerful, and I've learned so much from,
Mm-hmm.
and some little ideas on what to do about it.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, please, if you like what we're doing, make sure to like and subscribe and leave comments and follow us and be a part of this whole discussion that we're having.
Come out and play.
Yeah.
Come interact. We like hearing from you. We are working from the space of imperfection. So we
Yep.
do weird stuff all the time. We try new things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But the point is, if you just do it, do the thing.
I talked to an old Marine years and years ago. He said, the fact that you're still trying means you haven't failed yet. His was a little more brutal than that, but
His was?
yeah.
Oh, like how? What do you mean?
If you're still walking through the shit and you still got your guts in your hand, then you know you haven't been defeated.
I like that one better. It's a little more
Yeah.
visceral. I mean, I did ask. Okay. So what is procrastination? Like, what causes it? What do you think?
Um, Part of it is the definition, because each of us has a different experience of what procrastination means.
Hmm.
And I know that for me, what created what appeared to be procrastination in my life was the years and years of inconsistency and uncertainty that I grew up around. There was a whole part of my thought process that wondered, what's the point
What's the point to doing the thing?
to doing the thing?
Okay.
Or I know that there's an importance to doing the thing, and I want to be a person of quality and be reliable and thought highly of. And I'd like to be able to look in the mirror and go, that doesn't feel like a problem to me.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't develop the skill to get the thing done, if you have a bunch of emotion around wanting to get it done, those two things are not congruent and they don't cooperate very well.
So, like, what is it that is in the way of so many people just taking action, doing that thing? Even though we all know I should do this. I know that this would help me succeed. I know that creating this habit, I've heard this 100 times. Like,
Yeah.
what is that like underneath thing that we all share that's so common in humans? What is that? Do you know?
Well, I can't say that I specifically know that.
I don't think
But
I don't think I know either.
I know that, again, for me, the definition of procrastination, just like anything else you want to improve about yourself, has to be a very personal definition.
Mm.
But to your main point of what is something we all share, I've been reading for a number of years that procrastination has got its roots in fear.
Okay. Well, fear is a big block of a
Yeah.
lot of things. So I heard a really cool point. I was listening to Alex Hormozy, who's my new spirit animal, and he was talking about this concept of talking to his later in life, his 85-year-old self,
Yeah.
his 85-year-old self. And what stood out to me that's related to this is when that chair exercise that you share with people where you have
Yeah.
them embody that. So you'd have someone embody that 85, you'd have yourself
Yeah.
embody your 85-year-old self.
You create a split personality. That's like the extreme way of putting it, but within yourself.
So you're talking to as if you are 85 and you take your mindset and put it into that version of you. So what he was saying, and this like really struck me as like a duh, but your 85-year-old self is going to say to you, I know everything you have done and everything you have not done. So who are you trying to impress? And who are you worried about getting approval from? Because I'm the only one that matters. And when you try and hide from yourself or run from yourself, the only one that really cares about that is your future self, which is me. He's speaking from the 85-year-old self. So I really felt that was just relevant. And, you know, the only one that really matters is your future self. So when you're not doing these things, when you're procrastinating, it doesn't matter why or what your history has caused or what fear is making that a thing.
Yeah.
The only thing that's suffering is your future.
Yeah, and that's part of what else I've read about procrastination, the tendency towards it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a byproduct of a lot of things. It's not a problem unto itself. Like you don't get afflicted with procrastination. It is a byproduct. Another thing that I've heard and I've experienced it in my own life are the consequences.
Mm.
The reason why we persist in things is because we've managed or navigated around the feelings and the circumstances that come up from our behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, putting that thing off hasn't cost them anything extreme enough for them to change that behavior.
Okay.
So whatever the fear is, as much as that may apply, there's also the comfort zone, which is
Yeah. Why bother?
it's not going to kill anyone for me not to do this. And you know how to manage those feelings. So it's familiar. So I'm like, well, I can stick with this icky feeling because I know it really well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really a subconscious thing.
So it's kind of just that same idea of being comfortable in your discomfort because that's what you know.
Would you like to hear what Psychology Today says procrastination is?
Sure.
It's a psychological phenomenon that can be caused by various factors such as low confidence, anxiety, a lack of structure, and an inability to motivate yourself to complete unpleasant tasks, closely linked to rumination or becoming fixated on negative thoughts. Procrastination is not solely a mindset process, but also a physiological process that happens when the brain receives a real or imagined threat, stress, guilt, and anxiety, and even health problems. The ultimate strategy to defeat procrastination is to consistently avoid procrastination. All right, well, that helped. The best way to cure cancer is to not have it. Thank you.
I mean, for me, it's kind of like, what are those things that you've been avoiding? And there's usually a list of those things. What do we not want to do that we should be taking care of?
Well, I know that there have been times that I was aware that if I do the thing, it's going to expose some other thing that I've been hiding or not wanting to see about myself. Like, let's just go with finances. If I sit down and look at where my finances are, and I'm talking years ago, then I'm going to be afraid to find out that I've really fucked up. And so it's easier to put off something that I know is going to hurt or could potentially bring hurt than to sit down and just go, I'm the kind of person that has his finances in order and I face whatever I need to face. And that can be a big scale emotional awareness to something that's so subtle that you don't notice it, but all the way, I've noticed that a lot of it has to do with being forced to look at a part of myself that I didn't like.
So avoiding of that. And that's the idea of you can't hide from yourself.
Yeah.
And you can't hide from what you've created. You can avoid it, but eventually it's either going to get louder and kick your ass or get louder and kick your ass. I think that's all that happens really. When you don't deal with things, I don't really think anything else happens. Like the longer it goes, the bigger your ass kicking will be. But when you put stuff off, like your subconscious mind knows you should take care of that. Look at that. So
you created a really cool to-do list that has been very helpful because, again, however you define it for you, whatever feels true in your body when you hear about procrastination or putting things off, there's things you can do about it. There's plenty of things that she and I do individually and together to keep us off the putting it off track.
Mm-hmm.
So you have one written down on a blog you wrote. What was the first one?
Well, I wrote this blog because it's often like you get stuck in that, where do I start first? So the first thing to do is to start with the most awful hardest thing on your list and get that done. And you'll feel so much better when you do. A couple of our friends have gone through the reboot and they've actually said that they've resolved things that have been annoying them for over a year or two.
Yeah.
And by going through the midlife reboot, they actually completed those things that have been on their procrastination list. So that was like a super happy win for me to know that, we took some weight off of that, just that list. And then of course, if it's a big thing that you've been avoiding, the second part is to chunk it down, to break it down into smaller pieces and do it over a time span so it doesn't, totally take over your life, but break it down and then it won't be so overwhelming.
Yeah. And before we tell you number three, just wanted to say that if you're Gen X and midlife like us, and any of this is ringing a bell with you, she brought up the kit. We created this for us. The midlife reboot kit is the culmination of the things we learned that are helping our relationship and our life and bringing our families together be really successful. And we would like to invite you to please check out the link below. It's a free mini course that's going to help you get some obstacles out of the way and look at this in a whole new direction. And like she said, when people were going through it, one of the most surprising and wonderful results that we weren't necessarily expecting was how many people said, I got a win and I did this thing I've been putting off forever.
Yeah, it wasn't even intended to be about procrastination, but that's what happened. And just the link below will take you through our mini course, which is the top 3 secrets for a successful midlife reboot. And it kind of tells our story and how we did this and why we did this and why we are doing this. Because so many people have asked us, how do you do this? How do you have this relationship? How do you do this? So we've told our story to a lot of people in person, individually, in a lot of settings, and it just made sense to share it.
Yep.
So the next thing to attack these things you've been procrastinating is to turn them into goals, SMART goals. And SMART is an acronym. One of Jeremy's favorite things is when we're watching a movie and they use an acronym and then they spell out what it means within the next 3 seconds.
Yeah, especially military movies, like they're in a plane and somebody goes, are you checking with AWODs? And then somebody's head will pop in from off screen. Adverse weather operational discuss. You're like, well, why did you just?
He loves it.
Love it.
It's really funny to hear him grumble when he hears those. So the SMART goals stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So obviously it helps you complete things. The midlife reboot has kind of a similar process. We call it the rabbit hole remedy, but there's so many tools and tips to do this. Figure out what works for you. The SMART goal thing works, the rabbit hole remedy works, or even just making a task list and checking it off, whatever works. The other thing that we like to use is the Pomodoro technique, which is using a timer. When you say, okay, go, and you set a timer and then you go and do something for 25 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever your amount of time is, you'd be amazed how much you can get done in that little time window of your day. It's almost amusing. You have a phone, you have a timer on your phone. It's in your alarms. There's a timer there. So just use you already have it. It's right there. So just use it. It's really great.
And then we finally have one called visualize success. We're not big on like, what is it? Positive thinking. We like positive actions and awareness and doing stuff.
We're not big on positive thinking.
Well, not just that, like you can't just think your way with big words if you know that the conflict is still inside. You've got to be aware of what's really true. And so
like I kind of like positive thinking.
Yes.
Positive thinking is part of an equation.
Yes.
So what we're saying here is when you visualize something, it's not just like, yeah, that's done casually, a thought goes by. It's really about feeling and embodying that feeling and putting yourself in the space of knowing what it feels like to be on the other side of it. So my friends who finished it talked about how much joy they had once they accomplished those things that had been on their list forever. And like the dancing and the wiggling and the happiness that they felt when they were done. So if you can picture a moment when you were really happy and then feel that and remember what it feels like to be happy and then put that on the other side of the task.
Yep.
It's a lot easier to start doing the task, even if it's kind of not fun.
You know what we would love to hear about? What have you been putting off? Or what have you accomplished that you had been putting off? And how did you feel when you got it done?
Mm-hmm.
We would love to hear more about your experience with this.
Our latest theory and approach is do the thing. And we move forward awkwardly. Like I said in the beginning, we try new things. we jump into ideas. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and then sometimes we do it again, and sometimes we decide that's not where we need to go.
Yeah, and that reminds me of something very important
Mm.
underlying our relationship, which we brought up earlier.
Mm.
Both of us agree that sometimes something isn't going to work, and we're going to have to keep trying something new.
Mhm.
Like there's no fear between us that I'm going to try something new and then she's going to go, see, I told you that wouldn't work. Do it this way. None of us are like that. I would never do that to her. I would never watch her genuinely try to make an effort. And then if it didn't work, go, well, why did you do it that way? We know that if you're going to take action, you have to explore it. And the other thing is, would you say that every decision we're making, that how are you putting it? Do it now?
Oh, yeah, do the thing.
Do the thing.
Yeah.
Is everything on that do the thing a really complex, multifaceted, really deep, important thing?
No,
Why wouldn't that be the case?
you want to share something and you're trying to pull it out of me, I think.
Oh, I'm just trying to engage in a fun way. I'm just trying to say we were wrapping up and I went too far. This stuff can be very simple, is what I'm trying to say. Don't put pressure on yourself. Keep it simple. If it's as simple as like, I'm just going to clear this part of my desk,
Yeah,
that's doing the thing.
and it is exactly that. It gives you a win, a quick thing to get that energy moving so you can continue to check off your list, quit procrastinating, and apply that do the thing attitude to your whole life.
Yes. We'll see you again in the next episode.
Follow us, like us, subscribe to us. We love you.
We love you guys.
Bye.